if anyone's missing this because it's not working on LinkedIn. Oh well, let's make a start anyway.
Yeah, please.
If you have missed this on LinkedIn, it will be recorded. It will be available on YouTube, and we'll make sure that you're all able to see it. Right, we'll message everyone who hasn't been able to see it. And yeah, let's get started because we're a few minutes in now. All right, so welcome along. I'm Phil. I am a writing coach for multilingual writers, professional writers, copywriters, content writers, that sort of thing. Hopefully, many of you know what I do, and I'll let Anthony introduce himself, my co-host for today.
Thank you, Phil. Well, I've been freelancing since 2015, and I started off because I was in a country where things were going down the drain. uh, since I started, I realized that there is a lot to do with freedom, a lot to do with changing your income, right? Because when you live in a country like Venezuela, which is where I started, things get very hard very quickly. So I soon started exploring my opportunities there, and I grew very quickly. And one of the things I felt was that I owed to everybody else maybe the ability to inspire them too to grow in the same way, because many people in the world, in Africa, Asia, Latin America, they're suffering, they're going through the same things. So these days, I've while I've niched down a little, I've changed my positioning a bit. I try to inspire people in freelancing, especially those who are already started and who are making some money online. And that's me basically, just teaching and helping people make money online with freelancing.
Great, that's brilliant. Yeah, Anthony's got loads of great insights on sort of how to get clients and also how to grow your business with them. One of the most important things in that is how we communicate with people. I too am on both ends of the equation. I have clients and I try and make sure that I communicate well with them, and I have suppliers, so they also are communicating things to me. So yeah, stick around till the end because I'll be asking Anthony some questions, and I'll also be sharing my thoughts on sort of language and best practices on that front, while Anthony is more of the what to communicate with clients, sort of how often, and how to ensure that you're saying the right things at the right time.
And why?
So yeah, and why? Yeah, all of the questions answered: what, how, and why. Yeah, and if you've got questions, just type them into the chat. We'll get to them at the end. And I'm really crossing my fingers that some people were able to see this on LinkedIn, YouTube, and everywhere else that we're streaming. And if you're watching the replay, well, you can send us your questions afterwards. So a few questions for you, Anthony, to start about client communication. First off, let's start with why. Why do you think it is so important to communicate well, that
Hmm.
freelancers, offer effective communication?
I do think that there is a problem, a widespread problem among freelancers, that they make the difference between themselves and the client maybe a bit too large. They feel like a bit, inferior. They feel like they're serving their boss, and it doesn't work like that. Really, freelancing, the client is just as much on the same level as you are of them. You have to realize that they are somebody who needs a solution, and you can solve their problem. That's it. The relationship must be more on a similar level, and the best way to achieve that is through communication. You have to be somebody who is able to tell them how things are going. Can you solve their problem? I can't solve your problem. Those are things that most freelancers, they stumble at when they reach, those obstacles. They feel that they must always be positive. They must always be, accept some jobs that they can do, and others just decline them. Sometimes it's just about correct communication, because you can get a job that you're not very familiar with simply by communicating. I've had clients who I worked for, they were giving me, let's say, master's or PhD level tasks, and I did them. And I'm not a PhD, I'm not a master's, I'm a bachelor's. I have my chemical engineering degree. And why? How could I help them? Because simply offered I offered the solution, and whatever I didn't know, I asked them, "Can we talk about that? Let's have a call. I'll help you. Let's do some consulting." and I'll offer you a solution based on what you tell me and what I can look up on and research. It's something I talked about yesterday in a post, that sometimes you just have to accept a job, learn on the go, and communicate well with the client, because the client will explain and you will take from that and learn. So that's why communication is important.
Got it. Yeah, great ideas. Give us a thumbs up if you agree. Feel free to comment, get your questions in for the end as well. Yeah, I do. I mean, you said so much there, Anthony. You sort of touched not only on why, but on what it is to be an effective freelancer, right? To learn on the go and
Yeah.
to incorporate all of these skills as you go. That's definitely true for so many of us who are like running digital businesses and starting out doing this as well. Okay, so how can freelancers improve their relationships and build relationships through better communication?
An important aspect of communication with clients from a freelancer's perspective is you have to know your client. That is something that I have been a client now for. I was talking about my freelancing experience when we began, but these days I'm more of a client since about 2019 or so, because I was hired full time and by two companies who wanted me as their manager. So what I did was I realized that freelancers, being a freelancer myself, sometimes they need a bit of help. Sometimes they need a bit of communication help. Because when you're a freelancer, you're working with a client. You will often fail when it comes to, let's say, deadlines, when it comes to challenges, when it comes to many other things, interviews. It's very important to know how to dominate an interview, right? So what I do is I tell freelancers to know their client, look at their work history, look at how they've interacted with others, what field are they in, how else can you get to know them so you yourself can communicate better with them, because you're not able to communicate well with a stranger. And if you're working with a stranger, things might not go that smoothly. You need to get to know the person. Are they open for a joke? Maybe a joke can break the ice between you. Maybe you can talk to them about your personal things, or maybe not so personal, but about work. Yeah, so what are you doing this for? Maybe you want to know what the end product of this project is, and that will help you connect with the clients and will build long-term relationships. That's very important. The very important aspect of this communication between the freelancer and the client, building a relationship.
Yeah, great points. I'd say, for me, it's about when you say getting to know clients, ask as many questions as you can, right? People
Yeah.
love talking about themselves and their business. So if you're asking business questions, as long as they're appropriate, people get the most information you can, because that helps both parties. So whether that is initially on a call or just through back and forth emails and communication, I think that's a good idea. Okay, another question for you, Anthony, is what are some common errors you have encountered as an Upwork client? Anthony does a lot of uh, both hiring and working on
Mm.
Upwork. Is that right? So tell us, what's some
Yes.
typical communication errors you see?
Well, yes. Since I've been in management, I've found one of the most common mistakes is a lack of communication when it comes to requirements, when it comes to knowledge. That is one of the biggest. Freelancers many times are either not willing to tell you they don't know something, or they're not willing to correct what they didn't know and they did wrong. They did wrongly. So the second case is worse. It's much worse because there are certain experts out there who may be experts. They may be. I worked with, for example, a PhD in French, a French language. Won't say anything else for his privacy. But I had many issues with him because he never liked the feedback. It was a problem. Whenever we gave him fair feedback, which was like, this is not right, this is too spaced out, this is too, he got angry and he reacted. Instead of just taking it easy, waiting, and then telling me, well, I don't agree, he acted on as soon as possible. He argued, he called people names. And I think you have to be open for negative and positive. criticism, right? You have to be open to the comments which are praising you, and you have to be open to comments which are maybe criticizing your work, because at the end of the day, you're trying to solve a problem. You're trying to present a solution. The client isn't doing you a favor. They are paying you to solve a problem. And if you're not solving that problem right, be open. Be open just to, okay, I fix it. It will take a few days. I need to calm down, maybe. Even you can say that if you need to. Yeah, I need to look at it. I don't agree with everything you said, but I'll fix it. At the end of the day, the customer isn't always right, but you need to behave accordingly, professionally.
I like what you said about taking time to respond. I think that's very important with any kind of communication. Is most of the problems we get into by texting too quickly or by reacting, and that often isn't conducive to communicating in an effective way. So yeah, I really like that you said that. Yeah, great. I had another thought as well. Slipped my mind. What was it? I think that yeah. What are some other common errors? Do you have any other
Yeah, true. I did talk
ideas?
a lot about yeah, about one only. The another one that I often find is people who they don't know, they can't time deadlines, you know. So you give them a 20-day deadline and they feel that the deadline is too close, but they don't say anything. You wait the 20 days. When the 20 days arrive, the person says, "Yeah, I only have about one quarter of the work done." And you go, "Why?" They tell you, "Well, you gave me a deadline which was too close." And then I say, "But why didn't you tell me when the deadline was given? I mean, you could have given you 20, instead of 20, 30 days. And now I have to give you 20 more days because you haven't worked on it since it seemed too rushed for you." And that is a problem, because however well you do you end up doing the job, you delivered it late. And you know that whenever you do something right, but you deliver it late, it's it's going to end badly for you, because you're going to get a bad feedback. The client isn't going to be happy. They're not going to work with you again. So that ruins it. If you're going to be late, if you're going to deliver the work in maybe a different format, because I work with books on Microsoft Word, tell me, because telling me will allow us to fix anything early. But if you wait too long, it's too late. I mean, punctuality.
Sure. So it's about setting expectations as well, right? Because I think, find out what you can about clients before you work with them. But at the beginning of projects, it's all about communicating
Yeah.
expectations so that you don't have any surprises, like you mentioned. I was going to ask earlier, I just remembered what I wanted to ask you on your last answer, which was, do you think that sort of working with clients and that the the share of communication is 50-50 between supplier and client? Is it a
I
different
the ideal.
balance? What do you think?
Yeah, yeah, Philip. The ideal would be 50-50. That's what I think, because even now, when people have been freelancers for several years, because Upwork, for example, it's been around for a while, but in the past 3 or 4 years, it's grown a lot. And even now, the people who have been around for a long time, they still feel that they're talking to their boss. You know, it's all very formal. It's all very. I have a freelancer. She works with me in writing books, and she has an issue with communication that I say I would love to hire her full time, but whenever I try to chat with her about an opportunity, about something, she's always like, "Yeah, go ahead, tell me." Okay, thank you. So you need somebody with personality, and your personality exists, but sometimes you don't want to show it, right? You're shy because it's a client, it's a big person who's paying you a lot of money. But it's better to be slightly more, to let that show, and to show that personality, because you don't know where that's going to take you. Some of my biggest hires, some of my biggest contracts as a freelancer, not as a client, have been when I simply, I approached the person and I said, "Hey, I've been working with you. I love working with you. You're a great person. Uh, I feel that I could help you more. I feel that what you do here, we could change it a bit, and I could offer this and that." And the person, it injects, the idea into their head. It makes them realize that, yeah, this person, I need this guy. And lots of people are missing out on that, because all they do is thank you, you're welcome, here you go. Simple communication, which is not effective. Being assertive, like Chantal says.
Yeah, exactly. I can just show Chantel's comment on screen. I think she says be proactive, sorry. Eva says this is about communicating with your client effectively. I absolutely love the word effectively. You'll probably see it all the time in my copy and in my writing because I think it is something which right? This works. This is working well. That's what we want to say by effectively, not, good, which isn't very helpful. It's a bit woolly as a word. So I absolutely love that word. Got a couple of other comments here. Daniel says he agrees. Don't reply too quickly to a situation. Yes. Nice ideas, Daniel.
I agree with Daniel. I mean, I said it, but I agree with Daniel.
Take a walk, sleep on it is great advice. Yeah, for any writer out there for feedback.
Yes.
Yes, and we've got someone else here. We can't see your name, LinkedIn user, but I think that's somebody using the app maybe. 50-50, sometimes it's 90-10, clients don't respond. Yes, clients are pretty time starved, so I think in some clients' mind it would probably be more onus on the supplier to communicate a bit more. Great. Well, some awesome ideas already from Anthony, and stick around because after my mini presentation, I'm going to show you a few slides, everybody, about some ideas I have on effective communication, especially the language element of that, because I know many people who are tuning in are English might not be their first language. So I'm going to share that, and stick around because I'll be asking Anthony some more questions, and I hope he has some thoughts too on what I'm about to share with you.
I hope so too.
Okay, so great. I think everybody can see these slides. Don't worry, this is not going to be death by PowerPoint. I just have a few fun slides with some examples on to share a bit more about my perspective on what I believe is effective communication. Of course, all of you listening and watching have different roles, different jobs. You write different things and communicate in a variety of ways. It's, of course, important to think first about the method of communication. What are you writing? Is it an email? Is it a LinkedIn message? Is it WhatsApp? Is it something on Upwork or a platform? And remember to stick to the parameters of that form, right? Don't, write a huge block of text which people won't be able to scroll through easily on a mobile phone. So consider first the context. Anthony talked earlier about knowing your audience. You should definitely know who you're writing to, and whether that's one or just a few people is more likely to be a lower number of people. So you can really know them and consider what they're reading and how they're processing it. Finally, the why, right? Why you are writing is probably the most crucial thing for your communication with the people you're doing business with. Everything you write should serve that purpose. If your purpose is to negotiate, anything else is going to waste the client's time. Anything else is going to detract from your message or your idea of negotiation. So consider those three things before you start writing. That's always a good check in to have. And today, I'm going to share a few best practices. Missing an S there, but best practices for client communication. And the character, this character, do you know who he is? If you do, keep it to yourselves, because he's going to help us with what these best practices are. So the first one I want to talk about is accuracy. We all know this is important, especially when you're writing in a second or foreign language. People really judge your capacity and your ability to deliver a good service by the accuracy of your work. And one of those elements is vocabulary. Here's a quick example of something that I often come across, and that is collocations which don't sound natural or false friends. So we see here we've got two words which aren't quite right? This isn't going to make anyone misunderstand the message, but it seems odd to me, or it would if I were reading this. So watch out for those false friends, right? Assist probably comes from the Latin base. So, in French, Italian, Spanish, they probably have false friends, right? It should be attend the meeting. And we might say high priority or top priority. Those are collocations which sound more natural in English. So that's what we want to go for. Make sure that your vocab is accurate. Another element of accuracy, we're not going to talk about grammar because that really would be a rabbit hole to go into. We don't have time to get into all grammar, but of course, other grammatical elements are important in accuracy too. But punctuation. So we see here we've got we've got a rogue comma, we've got some quotation marks or inverted commas, which aren't really necessary. We could use something else, and an exclamation mark, which draws too much attention, right? Punctuation should be quiet. So I'd suggest something like this. This might be a message if you're submitting to a magazine. It says, I'm writing to ask you if Palermo is interested in publishing 10 inspiring talks about writing. You can italicize titles. Looks a bit cleaner. And without the exclamation mark, I think it's more appropriate. So make sure that work is accurate in terms of vocabulary, grammar, punctuation. It sounds obvious, but it shows due diligence and care on your part. How can you improve accuracy? Well, our friend here is going to help us. Use a spreadsheet to build vocabulary. I've talked about this at other times, but it's a very good idea to have a swipe file or building up vocab in whatever way you choose to store it in, so that you can avoid those inaccuracies and false friends, for example. Good old Grammarly. We have divided opinions about it. Certainly useful to check work with it at the end of what you're writing. Don't turn it on while you're writing. That's my opinion. It's going to annoy you with lots of red lines and you'll doubt yourself. So it's important to learn grammar rules and to do your own sort of work to improve that level so that you know if it's making good suggestions or not. But can definitely be a help for you. Be consistent with punctuation. Great. I'm just going to have a quick look back at the comments before I move on to our next section. Eva says, I hate stale communication. I love working with clients that really engage with me. Yeah, great ideas. A rogue comma sounds awesome, to be honest. Yeah, well, there's often rogue things in my work as well. So it does happen to the best of us. Great. Let's move on. A couple more things to talk about. So the second good practice, we've talked about accuracy, is clarity. Now, let's imagine this is an email. I'll give you a second to read this block of text. Have a think about why this is less clear. Right, this is a freelancer writing a message to a client.
It reads to me as so aggressive.
I should say this isn't a real example of anything that I've received or sent. Yeah, why do you think it's aggressive?
It's pushy. It's quite pushy when it's like remember, and when was it recorded? Do you have? I mean, this is question by question after question. I mean, I wouldn't mind if these were several after several exchanges they start asking questions.
Yeah, good point. I mean, short, just for everyone out there wondering, yeah, why so many questions and short sentences sound pushy. It's something cultural, I think, with the English language. We consider short sentences more punchy and more, um, yeah, it can be more pushy as well. And asking too many questions, well, is that what the client wants? For me, this is ineffective because it's all one block. So we can't skim or scan the text very easily. It's got too many questions, so the reader doesn't know what to respond to first. And the order of it is all out of whack as well. Like, what's the most important thing here? I mean, this person starts off asking about all the stuff you told me about last week. There's a Web3 video, and then there's, scheduling calls. There's too many things here. So one good practice is not only to reduce text to make it clearer, write as little as possible that you can convey what you want, but also to keep one message about one main topic. So hopefully this message will seem a bit clearer now. Still managed to include all of the elements that the previous person talked about. But as you can see, it's much clearer just to scan, read. We know immediately what the most important issue is and why this person is writing. And then the less important thing about the Web3 video, that's coming at the end, right, with a PS. So here's some advice on improving clarity from our good friend, Mr. Ventura. He says, be concise, one topic per message, break up text, keep things visually simple. Another way to do that is use linking terms, use lists, use bullet points, format your message and spend time doing that so it's as clear as possible. Oriana says, very unclear and chaotic. I hope you were talking about the first one from Unclear Freelancer. Great. One more thing to talk about then. One good practice left to share, and that is effort. When we talked about the percentage between the communication of clients and freelancers, I think that comes down to effort as well. As a client, I want to make sure my suppliers are putting in the right amount of effort for what I'm paying them for, and vice versa. I want my clients to think that my communication shows that I care and I've put time and effort in. Let's imagine Anna has sent this person a considered email, several paragraphs, maybe she's delivered some important work, and instead of replying in it with enough effort and in a considered way, this person has said, "Hi Anna, I hope you're well. I am. I received it. Thanks." Why does this show low effort? It's too short, right? It doesn't match what was sent to this person. So as well as the formality of messages, as well as the formality of the text, it's important to match the effort, match roughly the amount that people write you, right? If they're writing you a paragraph, reply with a paragraph, unless it's something very simple or is going back and forth quite a lot. Also, all these sentences start in the same way. There's no variety. I hope, I am, I received. So it just shows that whoever was writing this has not put in any due care. Even this, I hope you're well, it's such a stock phrase that we probably ignore it. Okay, here's a better example of effort in response to Anna's message. One thing we can do is change stock phrases for something unique, something where you've just changed one word, or maybe even mention, hope everything is well in and where the person is. It shows that you are thinking about them and that you know where they are. We have a bit more variety in this second one, and it's long enough that it shows due care, I think. Great. Yes, I'm just checking the comments, just checking in with them. Thanks for your comments. Give us a thumbs up. Give us a like if you're still there, if you're still listening. If you think these three things are important. So we talked about accuracy, clarity, and effort. Well, who was the character? None other. Before I get to that, sorry, I have one more slide for this gentleman to help us. He says, make sure that you write enough. Develop your own phrases. Don't use tired, boring phrases which people will ignore. And vary your sentence construction. Right, this is what I consider enough effort to write your messages to clients, whatever platform they're on. Okay, so just as our recap, we had accuracy, we had clarity and effort, three best practices for writing to clients. And hopefully by now you've got it. Did you get it? Who was the character? ACE. So we had ACE. You can remember that, the ACE method, when you're communicating with clients. Make sure that your messages are accurate, clear, and show enough effort. Great. So that's all from me. Let me know what you thought about that with any questions, with any comments. You an Ace Ventura fan, Anthony?
I do like Jim Carrey a lot. Ace Ventura, sometimes I did feel it was silly, but it does have a lot of funny moments that you could no longer see on the cinema. I mean, his humor these days, it wouldn't be accepted by anybody.
Yeah, totally. It's a bit 1990s, isn't it? But that's my generation, so I'll take it.
Yeah, he'd be cancelled these days.
Yeah, I think he's busy doing his art these days, keeping himself to himself.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, a couple more questions for Anthony, and everyone, get your questions into the chat, and we'll get to those in a few minutes or so. A few more questions I've got for you, Anthony. We talk about LinkedIn being a professional network or a professional platform. What
Yeah.
does professional communication mean for you? How can people maintain professionalism?
Well, Daniel mentioned something in the comments a while ago, about 15 minutes ago. It was very good. He said, do be aware of cultural differences. Do you think you could pop that up on the screen, or is it too big?
Yeah, I've just found it now, so it should be on screen in a second.
Yeah. It says at the end, it's cut off, but it says, knowing what these differences are when you hire someone from a different country prevents awkward situations. And I do want to highlight that because I've worked with people from the Philippines, from China, from Japan, Korea, all nations at this point. And I have noticed that certain people, they do share more than others. I'm not going to, you know, put them in categories because there are different people all over the world. But I remember working with certain people that they haven't enjoyed sharing anything about themselves. And I'm not saying that I was planning on asking them what they did on the weekend, but more of things like, how do you work? How do you do this? Can you do this? The replies are usually very short. They're usually very brief, like the example that you used. Yes, I am fine. I received it. Thanks. But sometimes I do feel that when we use cultural barriers or cultural differences, it can be used as an excuse. and that we must be more open-minded. We must be open to the differences between cultures, and it's something that is easier to do when you're from the more closed culture, right? If you're from a more closed culture, it must be easier, in my opinion, to open up to people because they're not as close as you are, and it will help you. Of course, if you're too open and you're working with a freelancer from a country that is not too open to communication, it can get difficult. But there must be a balancing point. There must be a point where you say, well, this person isn't from my country. I don't have to be like I would be with my neighbor. I should be more open because that person will be looking for an open minded person, for an open minded freelancer. So I do think that while differences exist, just to conclude this idea, I think that you should step in the shoes of the other person and try to act as they would act, because you can't be in a bubble when you're a freelancer. You're working with people from everywhere. There are 200 plus countries in this world, so you have to be open to the other 200 and so minus one that are in the other countries.
I mean, great point from Daniel. And this is something I wanted to talk about. I think it slipped my mind to mention it earlier. Cultural differences. And I think we keep going back to this idea of 50-50 communication. Maybe the balance of power in freelancing world sits more with the client, right? They're the
It
one
does.
who is paying the freelancer, and they have certain expectations. So it may be more important for freelancers to move towards the cultural expectations and the cultural communication style of the
Yeah,
client. And I advise everyone to do some research on that. If you're working with um, nationalities which are more direct and you have a less direct style, it's probably better to move towards their style, especially if that's the way they're writing to you.
yeah,
Yeah, and you can do some research on that. There's some great books like The Culture Map by Erin Meyer, I think it is. That's a really interesting one to read, so that we can, um, yeah, like Anthony said, put ourselves in the shoes of the other person and move towards them. I know from my experience, I really appreciate that when people move towards my style of communication.
yes.
Great. Another question for you, Anthony. How
Yeah.
can freelancers communicate with difficult clients? We all have them, people who are too abrupt or demanding. What's the best idea here?
Difficult clients. Hmm. We would need to define them, right? Difficult clients. But sometimes I would say rude clients are the biggest problem. The ones that they're not respectful, maybe they're too blunt. Maybe they, for example, let's put an example of one I've faced a lot on LinkedIn when I've been helping people, that you give them your budget, you give them your rate, and they say, wow, you're so expensive. So that already gives you a bad start. You're getting off on the wrong foot. Sometimes you just have to test them and see if this will continue. Maybe it will save you time and pain in the future if you do not continue the communication with them. You say, yeah, maybe I'm not the right freelancer. Sometimes you have to learn to decline. And learning to decline, we could do a whole new webinar on this, right? Learning to say no, because you know how difficult it can be. But I would say to find a way to patience is key. That's a very important one. Working with people who are difficult, it's been part of my career, whether people who are above me or people who are working for me. And I would say patience is key. Just get the work done. And then when the work is done, you can tell them, yeah, I'm looking for new opportunities if you're the freelancer. Or if you're the client, yeah, I think we won't have any new work for now. I'll contact you. Just be diplomatic, be patient, be professional. Because otherwise, I mean, there are plenty of ways it can go wrong, and you can get a project cancelled halfway. That's not a good ending.
Yeah, I think it can be a big problem for people who are starting out in the
Yeah,
freelancing world. They're more likely to just go along with demanding clients and clients who are writing rude messages to them.
yeah,
So I think for our confidence and our development as freelancers or as solo business people, like you say, Anthony, it's crucial to think, is this right for me? And if it's not, then then don't go along with it. Don't do it. Um, and sometimes it will be. You have
Yeah.
to maybe bite down on the mouth guard and
Yeah,
complete the work.
I actually have a story. It's a good one. At the beginning of my career on Upwork, my first client, it took me 7 days to get a client. I've seen most people take longer. I've seen some people take shorter, but it took me 7 days. I got a client. He was a Dutch young man. He was publishing books on Minecraft, so I was going to write them for him. And he sent me. I'm not lying here. He sent me the book, the let's say the first draft of the book, around 4 times. He sent it back. And each time he said, fix this. And I'm not going to pay until you fix this. So I fixed it. Then he said, I'm not happy with the dialogues. Change them. I fixed them. I sent it back. Yeah, the ending wasn't great. I mean, this was after he was looking at it. He already checked it once, and then he checked it again, and then he checked. So he was getting free work at this point. And I calmed down and I said, I'm going to keep doing this until he pays me because this is my first job. I'm not going to get it wrong. And I got it right. And finally, he paid me. And this was my first payment. And we worked together for over 1 year, thanks to the fact that I didn't say, oh, come on, just pay me or fire me. I mean, I could have gone down that road of saying, yeah, I'm not going to fix your book anymore. You should have seen that the first time you checked it. I calmed down. I got it. And 1.5 years later, we parted ways because he was finished with the books. So I think that's the key element.
Yeah, interesting story. Thanks for sharing that. I think first client and getting your foot in the door, you may have to suck it up and do things which might be more challenging. I'd say on his part, though, it wasn't particularly good communication because how frequently you communicate on a project basis is important. If you can group things in together to be dealt with, if it's going back and forth between supplier and client, that is good practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got another comment here from Eva. She says, I think having your own boundaries as a freelancer makes it easy to say no to stubborn clients. Definitely. And those boundaries are going to be different for different people.
Yeah. I saw a comment here from Maria. She says, I would love to know how you ensure that you ask the right questions in the initial stages of communication with a new client. I think that's a good one. I would like to answer that one.
Show that on screen. Yeah, go
Yeah.
ahead. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'd like to answer that one. It's a good question because the right questions are the ones that get you hired, right? And the wrong questions are the ones that cause you to be another candidate, a declined candidate. And I would say that the right questions have a lot to do with the end product of what the client wants, what problem they want you to solve. Most people, they see project job posts, and they think, yeah, this guy wants a writer. You yourself, Philip, you know that people, they don't want a writer, they want a solution, right? So what I see is that people focus too much on the job post title, and they should be focusing more on what is being produced. What type of client is this? Is this a business person? Is this what do they serve? Do they serve other businesses? Do they serve customers, specific customers? Um, have they had similar problems before? This is something you should be asking. What do you do? Who do you serve? Uh, why are you hiring somebody? Not asking bluntly, but finding out why they're hiring somebody. Have you ever had somebody in this position before? Um, what do you expect from me? That's a very important question you should ask discreetly, not too bluntly, but with subtlety. What do you expect from me? Do you want me to do this? Do you want me to work on X amount of articles per week? Do you want me to work on X amount of words per week? And that is key because when you get that right, you will know the scope of the job and you will get paid accordingly because you will be able to calculate your rate accordingly.
Yeah, and you say, ask in a way which is not too blunt. And I wanted to touch on that because I think, especially for native speakers, especially British, we are very indirect in the way we ask questions.
Yeah.
And what that means is formulating starter to the real question. So if I say something like, would you mind telling me what your name is? The answer to that question isn't yes or no, I would or wouldn't mind. It's, I want to know what your name is, and
Yeah.
I'm too embarrassed to, or I'm asking in a polite way. So that's some ways that you can, there's a lot on indirect questions and indirect language. You can use this phrasing like, would it be possible to know? Or, could you tell me? Would you mind telling me? Would you mind? And those questions, yeah, are formulated in a more indirect way, and that seems more polite. So if you're asking these
Yeah.
questions to clients to try and find out more about what they do, then that might be a good way to go.
Did my camera go off?
Yeah, your camera's gone.
That's so strange. I pressed the button I've never pressed here on my laptop and it's gone. I'm sorry about that.
It's okay.
Yeah, it's very odd.
It's minor technical problem. I thought you'd taken offense to what I was saying about being too indirect.
It's I can see myself now. Good.
Great, we're back on.
Yeah.
Okay,
Apologies
great.
to everyone.
Well, it's time for any questions. So if you've got any questions that you want to ask us about language, about client communication, or anything else,
Yeah. Chantel
tap
has a
into
good
the
one
chat.
here. Yeah. It's not a question, but she says always let them talk and apply the broken player method. Keep repeating the same message again and again. I think you worked in customer service. just by reading that, I know. Customer support.
That reminds me. I think that's a very good tip, Chantel. Like, ask the same thing as if you didn't acknowledge that they haven't answered it. One tip I have is that when either speaking or writing, when we're communicating, is to avoid too many buts and howevers. Right? We get annoyed when people say, "Oh, I liked it, but can you do this?" Or, "Oh, well, it might be possible, but something else." So you can just omit that word. It might be possible, full stop, next sentence. We would also like to ask this, or something which is not always using that contrasting linking phrases like but, however.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
I think further to that, upgrade negative language. If you've got language which is, that wasn't good, or we didn't like that, or I couldn't do it, it's possible to upgrade that, negatives to more neutral language. Like, that might not be the best solution. Best is a much more positive word than, that was a bad idea. So there's another sort of tip on that front. And if all else fails, like Chantel says, just ask the same question if you're not getting what you want.
Yeah. Diego has a good question here. It's about cold emailing. I'm sure if you want to pop it up on the screen or...
Let me try and find that. Yes, Diego, welcome along. Hello. Yes, your question is how to get the tone right when sending cold emails. Great question.
Should I answer that one?
Go for it. Yeah. What are your thoughts?
I think cold emails and Upwork proposals and LinkedIn DMs, they're the same thing, right? Because you're sending to a stranger a pitch of some kind. It doesn't matter if the pitch is connect with me, the pitch is you're invited to an event, it's still a pitch. So I would say the same thing you need to apply for one, you need to apply for the other. How to get the tone right. One of the things I tell people on LinkedIn is not to just reach out randomly with a cold DM or a cold email through email, if that's the case, but instead to maybe start connecting with them a little. Go slowly, take it easy, turn them into a warm lead, right? If it must be a cold email, at least go through their website, go through their profile, go through their social media, because you can't just say, "Hey, I've got a service for you. You've never talked to me. I don't care if you have a service for me. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if this is too blunt, but as a client, I don't care if they have a service for me. Why should I pay attention to what you're saying? You need to tell me something about me that you can help me with." For example, if I've ever talked about, let's say creating a website or my website itself has an issue, You could start there. You could start by, hey, I did see on your website that you're doing this. I do that, and I help people get through those problems and solve their issues. And that's a great way of getting started, getting them, on board.
Yeah, great answer, Anthony. I think there's two things here. It's the content of a cold email, which is of course something difficult to get right because you're sending someone an unsolicited message. But the cues that you can look out for are the content uh, of these potential clients, what they are publishing, what they are talking about, and what their business is about. Any problems that you can solve for them, as long as it's directly relevant to them, they're going to read it and they're going to be interested in it. I think that for me, the second cues that you should look out for um, is the formality level. So with cold emails, it's probably better to go very, very slightly more formal than too informal. I get a lot of cold messages where it's like, "Hey, what's up? Your website sucks. Want to hire me?" And
Oh, yeah.
I think, well, probably not. But yeah, what do I mean by formality? It's have a look at their website, at their marketing materials, at what these people or professionals are publishing online, the way that they talk. Are they using a lot of contractions? Are they using idiomatic phrases? Are they using slightly more formal language, like nevertheless or however, or these like Latinate words that I often talk about, like perceive or something like that, rather than um, guess or think.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, so have a look at those things and just try and mirror, right? What you see. Definitely, Diego, you're right. It's probably harder when you're messaging someone from not having a lot of communication with them. So good to chat, comment, and get in touch if you can. Great. We've got a few more questions.
Yeah. Hina's asking about limits for edits. I like that one.
Great. Okay. As a new freelancer, it's important to set limits for edits.
Yeah. I'm just going to
Yeah, very
stretch over
important.
here and get my charger because my battery's running out. Sorry about that.
Okay. Pray for Anthony's battery while he gets it.
Yeah, I'm right here. I'm just stretching across the room. Okay, something fell over.
So
But
yeah, thanks for the question, Nina. And it says even when sometimes the client is being illogical on their feedback.
I would say that this needs to be established, Hina. You say you're a new freelancer. Don't allow being a new freelancer to give you a disadvantage of some kind, to create some sort of dependency. Because clients, I'm not saying all clients because that's it's a minority, but a minority of clients, they look for new freelancers like you and they exploit you. I went through that. I lived in Venezuela, so Venezuela, they wanted to pay me less than $5 an hour because I was from Venezuela. So that's silly. But just to expand on your question, set that at the beginning. Try not to be like we said, like Philip and I have said, don't be blunt about it. Don't say, I only edit 1 week after delivery, because that's not going to get you work. But instead, when you're working and you send a delivery, you can say, well, here goes the file, or I'm finished with the file. I'm submitting it on the screen, on the upload work screen, or whatever it's called. And you say, please make sure to check it out and tell me if anything's up. I will be free this week. I'll be free this weekend. And that will create some sort of, some sort of prompt in the client's head. Well, if she's free this weekend, I have to check it now. So if she's free this week, then I should be looking at it. Instead, if you just say, here you go, the client will assume that they have all the time in the world for edits. So do be sure you do that. And if you want to establish a number of edits, which I don't recommend, by the way, but if you want to establish a number of edits, then go ahead. Tell them there's maximum 3 edits or whatever. But I don't recommend it. It can go badly because a client should be able to get the work done right. So if they're asking for too many edits, it may be your fault. That's all I'll say.
Great. Yeah. Eva says this, which sounds similar to what you were saying. Ask what they expect from me. what their goals are, and it helps me understand them better.
Yes, that's spot on, Eva.
Great idea. I found another question from Paul, I think, earlier, who joined us on YouTube. He said, let me just find it here. It was a question about Upwork, I think. Let me just find it. Yeah, it says, here we go. Is Upwork a productive place to offer coaching services?
To be
What do you
honest,
think, Anthony?
yeah, to be honest, I would say no. I mean, just to put it easier for you, no. The thing about Upwork is it's more for people who are looking to offer services. You are asking about coaching services. Let me rephrase. To offer specific services on producing content, maybe design, development, writing. Coaching isn't something people often go there for. If it's a language coaching, yes, there is plenty of opportunity because I've hired people for that even. But if it's more of a business coaching, I would suggest sticking on LinkedIn. Because what I was thinking lately was LinkedIn is basically Upwork with posting. The freelancer side of LinkedIn, I mean, is Upwork with posting because you get to look for jobs, but at the same time, you get to post your personal branding to grow a personal brand there, which you can't do on Upwork. On Upwork, you depend on the algorithm, the search algorithm, and the proposals. So I would say keep it on LinkedIn, build a brand there. Is the grammar detective? Is it Paul?
Yeah, it's Paul Duke. This is his
Okay,
YouTube
Paul.
channel, The Grammar Detective. So he's
Right,
big on
Paul.
YouTube.
So you already have some kind of brand going on, which is perfect. So it will be seamless. Just get on LinkedIn, start posting text posts instead of video posts. Video posts also work. I haven't tested them much myself, but just try to do some text posts and see how people react.
Definitely. Well, I think most people are joining us from LinkedIn, and hopefully everyone's been able to log in now from that. Some people joining us from YouTube.
Yeah.
Yeah, Diego says, thanks for the insightful answers. Thanks for coming, Diego. Good to see you here. Expert game localizer, translator, wizard, Diego Perez. Great. I think that is all the questions we have for today. I hope I haven't missed any from everyone. Just check at the end. No, I don't think we have any more. So, yeah, thanks for coming along, everyone. If you've got any questions about improving the quality of what you write and what you sell, get in touch with me. Then that's, what I do is basically help multilingual writers, many of them freelancers, copywriters, content writers, to improve what they sell. And if you want to improve how you position yourself and how you sell it, then contact. I hope I'm pointing the right way, whichever way it is.
I'm trying to
Contact
dodge
Anthony.
dodge your pointing. Well, yeah, I for anybody really who wants to position themselves well, who wants to improve their communication, take it from an Upwork client. I can help you. I have a pretty affordable Calendly call, just half an hour. We can chat. It's on my profile. You can check it out in the bio. It says unlock your freelance success. It's right there. You can check it out and book a call with me because the best way to get started.
Brilliant. All right. Thanks for that, Anthony. Thanks to everyone who has come. I'll be back next month at some point with another live. And yeah, if you have any questions about anything, just get in touch. And hope you enjoyed it today. So thanks for sticking around through our technical issues, and have an awesome and productive and fruitful weekend.
Yes. Thank you for your patience, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everyone, then. Bye.
See you.